Hey guys, Mel the Train Tutor here again with another tutorial for you. Well, I say tutorial, this isn't really a tutorial because I'm not teaching you, it's more of a back to basics come product overview. Well, let me explain. Okay, we're starting the water series, and what I want to do is, before we actually get into how to build specific ponds, rivers, and all those sort of things that I've been asked for, what I want to do is sort of cover the sort of common hobby products and just do an overview of the products and how they work and common problems and that sort of stuff, yeah? If I teach you how to make rivers, you'll be able to make rivers. If I teach you if I show you how to use the materials, yeah, you'll be able to use it to do whatever you want. Yeah, it's about grasping the knowledge of the materials. So there's a few materials we're going to go through. Yeah, gloss, still water, yeah, water effects, uh, translucent gels, tinted gels, colour gels, blast from the past from my mum. I'll explain that later. And basically these are hobby products, you know, they're the sort of things that we get in hobby shops. Now, I should say there's a shed load of materials you can use for water effects, going from arts and craft materials from Galleria and people like that. Plus there's a load of building materials, okay? And what I'll do is over time, I'll come back and, you know, as the budget allows and I get things in, I'll come back and I'll show you those as well. Yeah, but for the meantime, I'm going to go with these because this is what I've got, and these are the sort of water products we buy from our hobby supplies, you know, which is normally where you first test your toes. So anyway, what we're going to do is dead simple. I'm going to be putting them on some rough, river pieces, and I'm also going to be putting them on, plastic card. So you can see them drying, you can see them on a piece, so to speak, and you can see them, on a bit of plastic. Yeah, on a bit of plastic card. I've got white and black, so depending on whether it's coloured or translucent. Ooh. All right, sorry guys. So first things we really need to look at is gloss. Okay, so let's go cameras down. Okay guys, the first one we're going to be looking at is gloss varnish, and this is a really simple way of getting some really simple water effects onto your water features. Now I'm using sort of model gloss varnish. Okay, I don't actually recommend this. If you're going to do terrain with gloss varnish, then nip up to your local sort of DIY store. They will sell very cheap tubs of clear gloss varnish for a couple of quid. Yeah, less than you can buy this for. Yeah, I just don't have any to hand because I normally use water effects. But anyway, let me show you how this works. Now, as you know, yeah, from our models, yeah, we can thin this down with water to get a thinner coat of gloss. Now, that's fine for models, but when you're doing terrain, the problem is if you get pools of watered down gloss, it doesn't dry that well. It sort of mists up, okay, and ruins the effect. So when you're doing this sort of stuff, yeah, you need to apply it neat. So make sure it's, you know, you've given it a good shake. And I've wet my brush but taken the excess water off it. Okay, and all I'm going to do is very simply, yeah, get a good amount and just paint it on. And you can see it's going on cloudy. Okay, there's a few bubbles. That's okay. And all I'm doing is literally just very carefully just painting it right up to the edge of the blue, which is where I want it to go to. Yeah, same there. Now, as you can see, it's just gloss. Okay. Try and spread it around. Try and avoid any natural pools and make sure you get a good covering. Yeah, so I don't want to tilt this up too much because obviously it's wet. Yeah, but you get the idea. Yeah, and I'm just going to leave that to dry now. But before I do, let me just get some gloss and I'll put it on this plastic card. Now, as you can see, as it goes down on this plastic card, you can see the it's got sort of a grey to it, a mist. And what that'll do is that'll, as it dries, that'll clear up and it'll go perfectly clear. So I'll just put just some general on there so you can see what the gloss goes like. And that's gloss. Okay, you've got experience. It's a varnish. It's going to dry absolutely solid. okay, and hard and translucent. It won't be very thick, so you may want to consider putting multiple layers on this, but if you do, make sure you do it once they're dry. Never gloss over wet gloss, you know. If in doubt, leave it another day. And with water features, you know, this is the thing, it's a time thing. You've got to leave it in between. So guys, that's gloss, and we're going to skip forward to when it dries in just a moment. Right guys, we're about 2 hours in on the gloss, which is plenty of time for gloss to dry. Now if you have a look at my little test piece here, you'll see that gloss is dry, completely transparent as we would expect, and it's all nice and smooth. Now this is because it's gone on a smooth background. Now with the actual river piece, because it's textured, although it's glossy, you can see, yeah, all the textures showing, and that's because the gloss isn't thick enough to sort of sit over it and smooth it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another layer and thicken it up a bit. And this is the benefit of gloss. It dries relatively quickly, and you can keep just putting layers on. Yeah, there's no issue with putting layer on top of layer on top of layer with gloss. So I'm going to get my gloss, and once again I'm going to repeat exactly the same process. Yeah, that's just painting it on like this. And the minute, all I'm doing is I'm getting the volume on there. I'm trying to be gentle with the brush, so I'm not sort of scraping it as much. It's not easy because gloss is, you know, incredibly thin. Yeah, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep adding a bit more gloss in patches. And make sure I fill in everywhere so I've got a completely liquid surface. Now I am putting it on thicker this time. Yeah, it will shrink. This is not going to get rid of all the texture, but it will help. Right, and a bit there. A bit there as well. Now because it's already got a layer of gloss down, it flows really well and it sits on top really well. Okay, and then I'm just going to give it a little run up and down, blow on it to get any bubbles, which there are a few. I'm just going to go for the biggest, just to save time. Bubble popping is actually quite challenging at times because they become stubborn. Right, I don't want you sitting here watching me popping bubbles, so a bit more on there. I've just missed a little bit that I want to catch, and you can see it on the camera. Yeah, guys, and a little tip, shut your lids before you pick them up. Comedy of errors. Ragbone man, my god. Times must be desperate. Right, and there you go. I'm just washing my hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave that layer to dry now. So we'll come back to it in another couple of hours, guys. So guys, the second coat of gloss has dried now. It's been about 4 hours, okay, since we started putting the gloss on. And as you can see, yeah, it's a nice glossy surface. The texture's starting to disappear as we added that second layer. Yeah, now it's going to take a lot of layers to get rid of that texture completely. Okay, and the reason for this is gloss isn't designed to smooth over things. Gloss is designed to put a glossy coat on things. Okay, so if you want a really smooth coat and you don't want the texture showing through, you want that still water sort of effect, then what we really need to look at is the water effects, and that's what we'll look at now. So let's move on to water effects. Okay guys, the next water effect I want to look at is water effects, and you get it from various manufacturers, hobby or otherwise. Okay, you know, the company that shall not be named got it, and they've been around for a while. Now what this is it's a plastic dispersed in water. Okay, so what that means is it's plastic floating around in water, and then when it's applied to something and the water evaporates, the plastic joins together. Yeah, so this is an air hardening plastic. And the importance of that is because it needs air to harden. It's a bit like PVA. If you apply it too thickly, yeah, the air won't be able to penetrate all the way through, and you'll be left with a bottom that isn't set. So these guys say 4 to 5 mils, other manufacturers say 5 to 8. Yeah, but basically the idea behind this is nice thin coatings. And its application is really simple. Now, before I actually do it, I've got my little test river here that I knocked together. You'll notice it's got these barriers on. Okay, and this is because this is literally like water. Okay, and so it will flow over the edges. Okay, so if you're doing this and you're making river pieces, you need to sort of seal off. With ponds and sort of enclosed pieces, it's not an issue. Okay, but if you've got open-ended rivers, you need to seal them off. Otherwise, this stuff will just flow over and flow onto your desk and make an almighty mess. So applying it, it's dead easy. Okay, so there we have it. And all I'm going to do is squirt it out. You'll notice as it goes down a little bit cloudy. Yeah, and up there, down there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly just roll it around a bit. Okay, if you do pour too much of this stuff in, don't panic, just pour it out. And all I'm doing is, before I put any more in, I'm getting it to the edges where I want it to. So let's start adding a little bit more, start filling in these gaps. Now they say sort of like a couple of mils, and to be truthful, with the thickness of this, that isn't much. Oh, it looks like it's reacted with the PVA. Come on. And you just roll it around and get a nice even covering. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting it up to the edges. And I just need to just get these in. Now that should be okay. You can already see it's sort of reacted a little with the excess of PVA I whacked on that side, but it's not a problem. These are only test pieces, just to show you this is the bit you're interested in. Now, quickly pop any bubbles. Now remember, this stuff takes about 24 hours to dry, so you know you're not in a madcap rush to get this sort of sorted. Yeah, and you can drag it around a bit and just sort of join things up and make sure that it's all nice. Now this is water soluble, okay, which means it will loosen, what you call it, with water. You know, you can dilute it down. I don't recommend it, but you can use water to clean up the edges, etc. Okay, and then very quickly, now I've only got a couple of mils on that, and I'm not going to tilt it up yet, simply because it's setting. Okay, but what I will do is very quickly pour a bit on there so you can see what it's like. Yeah, just run that around a bit so you can see as it sets. Remember, this is air drying, so the thicker it is, the longer it will take. If it's too thick, it won't dry. Okay, so always err on the side of caution. If you think you put too much on, pour the excess off. Okay, so that is water effects, and what we're going to do now is just let the air get to it and let it dry so you can see the finished effect. Okay, so coming up in a moment, you'll see the next one. It's been just over 24 hours now, guys, and the water effects has sort of cured. It's solid. I'm sure there's more curing going on over time, but for effective purposes, you know, it's good to go. Now, as you can see, yeah, it's cured quite nicely. There's a nice gloss, translucent finish to it, and you can build this up in layers. Now it's done that. Now there's a couple of things. Okay, first off, yeah, do you see that? Yeah, that sort of ripple. That's what happens when your 6-year-old daughter doesn't listen and she puts a finger in it. Okay, and the sort of what to take away from this is really don't mess, don't touch it, leave it alone. Now I'm just going to quickly take these sides off. Yeah, and show you. Yeah, now you can see that horrible gunky, yeah, sort of white purpley look, and that's where the water effects is mixed with the PVA. Now remember, this stuff, okay, it's in water, so if you've got anything which will react with water, yeah, such as PVA, anything like that, certain paints, it can re-moisturize it, it can re-wet it, yeah, and that's what's happened there and a little bit there, so that's something to be aware of. Yeah, but even so, when you're working with this, just seal your pieces, run a bit of gloss around all the joins, yeah, and it'll be absolutely fine. I'll show you that when we do actual ponds and rivers. Yeah, but it's a lovely material. It's pretty hard. Okay, now on the water effects on the plasticard, now you can see that there's this grey bit. Now what I did last night was, before it was fully hard, I poured some more on top of it, because I always leave things quite a while before I do these things to make sure they're fully cured, and never actually seen what happens when you layer it. And what happened was, you got a bubble. Yeah, with the fumes given off from the reaction on the piece underneath forced this up into a bubble, and it came about that high before sinking back down. Okay, so the take from that basically, make sure you leave this stuff to fully cure before you put the next layer on. Now one thing I do like about this stuff is it's peelable. Yeah, and that's how translucent it is. Yeah, that's my finger behind it. Okay, yeah, so theoretically you can literally pour this out onto a plastic sheet and then literally peel it off, lay it on, cut it, lay it in, yeah, and you wouldn't have these sort of ridges problems. So I mean, if you're concerned about pouring, yeah, and the stuff reducing and leaving rims at the edges of things, you can literally pour it straight out onto a piece of plastic card, peel it off, cut it, and then a little bit of PVA, and just glue it in place. So guys, that's the sort of hobby water effects, and I'm going to leave this one now because I don't need to leave it any longer to cure, whereas the other stuff will leave it, may need a day or two more. So water effects, guys, right. Now we've done water effects, what I want to look at is the the gels. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go from sort of this water drippy effect, yeah, and we'll look at the translucent gels. So we'll do that now. Next up, guys, we've got transparent gel. Now this is a relatively new thing in the modeling community, but it's not new. Okay, you've been able to buy, this is an acrylic, okay, very much like our Wargames paints, okay, and basically an acrylic is a liquid plastic with pigment in that air dries, so our paints carry pigment, and if you've ever noticed, if you put a massive blob on a model and it dries, you're able to peel it off, and the reason for that is a plastic, okay. Now these are exactly the same, yeah, but they've got a higher viscosity, and that basically means a higher thickness, and so they're gels. Now, like I say, relatively new to the wargaming community, but artists have been using this sort of stuff, and it literally is called transparent acrylic gel. You'll find it on YouTube. Galleria produced some. Now, because it's a gel, it's not going on with a brush, it's going on with a few tools. Now, I've got this little scraper that's used in, what's the term I'm looking for, in decorating, for cleaning up edges and that sort of stuff. Okay, you can use a bit of plastic card or even a credit card or an old plastic sort of cash card, one of those, the health lottery cards I've used in the past, those sort of things. And the other thing I've got is a little plastic spatula that I nicked out of my daughter's craft set, and this is just so I can do some basic effects on it. So I've got normal and extra heavy. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is we're going to put both of them on here so you can sort of see the effects. Now you notice this doesn't have the sides. That's simply because this stuff is a gel. It doesn't run, so I don't have to worry about it flowing over the sides. Okay, so straight off, we will go for the normal water effects. Yeah, and it's got a consistency, I don't know if you can see that, very much of face cream. Yeah, tubs of this in the wife's, what you call it, bathroom cupboard. Oh, look at that for an epic fail. That's wrong. Oh, there you go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a blob out if I can. Yeah, do you see that? And all I'm going to do is grab that. And now the normal's on this side, so I'll turn this around so I can do it. And as you can see, it's white. Yeah, it goes down. Yeah, and I'm just spreading it out as best as I can. Yeah, so I'll get a bit more with this. Now they say with these acrylics that you can wipe them off. They're water soluble, so you know you can literally wash your tools with water. You can mix water in and make them more liquidy. But when we talk about that, I'll show you something in a little while. Okay, and all I'm going to do very quickly is with my spatula. Yeah, first just give it a spread around so it's actually on the piece where I want it to be. Yeah, and I'm going roughly halfway with this. Yeah, and then all I'm going to do is just to get some waves texture. I'm not actually trying to do any sort of currents or anything like that. I'm just trying to get some spikes and stuff so you can see how this stuff dries. Yeah. Okay. And there you are. That's it on. Okay, and then very quickly I will put some on here on this black so you can see how it dries transparent over time. So I'll just quickly scoop some out. This is good for shaping, but not very good for getting it out with. Yeah, so smooth that on there. I seem to have picked something up with that. And then just smooth it out. Da, da, da. And there you go. Okay, guys. Okay. And there's the transparent gel on the on the black plastic card. And you can see that it is literally, it's a gel. It's not running anywhere. It's not going to fall off. Okay. You can blow it a little. Yeah. That's a good way of getting ripples, by the way, once you've got it in to get that sort of flow. Yeah, but I'll cover that in a future video. Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're going to put the extra heavy on now. And like I say, this is nothing new. This has been around for a while. Yeah, artists have been using this sort of stuff, and you really should go into your craft shops. Okay. Extra heavy. Here it is. The extra heavy gel. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, and to describe the look of the extra heavy gel, it's like slightly thicker face cream. Yeah, and I'm guessing that all it is more of the gel agent that they put into it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a blob out like that. Yeah, I'm going to come along to here. Oh, this is seriously thick now. That's better. And since I've got so much on here, what I'll do is I'll use this on here quickly now. Yeah, so I'll just spread that on there. Just quickly, I'll use that to scrape my card. So I'll come back to that in a second. Yeah, but for now, that'll do. Right, get my tool. Yeah, scrape it down from there. Yeah, and then literally just start. Okay, and all I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just sort of spreading it out first. Yeah, because I don't want it too thick. Even though this will harden, the thicker it is, the longer it will take to harden. And then let's just do some simple ripples. Ooh. Now remember, it is water soluble, so if you get it on the edges of stuff, you can literally just get some water and clean it off. And all I'm doing here is I'm just tapping this in to get some basic ripple effects. Choppy water. Reminds me of doing bandit runs on my inflatable kayak with my brother, with farmers shouting at me, screaming, "It's private water!" Yeah. Catch me if you can. Right, so very quick. Oh, I need to do this one as well. So that's quickly gone on. Yeah, and as you can see, it is slightly heavier and thicker. Okay, it isn't going to run. Okay, these things are non-toxic, but don't eat them. You know, they don't give off fumes or anything like that. Okay, so that's on there. I'll put that there just very quickly. And then what I want to do is very much the same, just put some texture on this so you can see it. And what I'll do is this is I'll vary the depth a bit so you can see how it dries over time, because you really can tell with this one. Yeah, so I'll put thin around the edges. Yeah, and then like I say, that leave that massive blob there. Hey. Yeah, and there you go. And that is the transparent acrylic gels. And like I say, there's nothing new about them. They've been around for a while, but they've started to be used for wargaming now. Okay, and you get some really good effects with them. You really do. But you'll see that in a minute. So that's the transparent acrylic gels down. Okay, obviously there's more stuff to look at, so we'll move on to that. We'll let this harden, and you'll see this harden in a moment. Okay. Okay guys, we're just over 24 hours in on the transparent gels. Yeah, the water effects, the normal one and the extra heavy gel. Now if I pick this up, you can see the sort of stage we're at. Now this is hard to touch. Okay. Yeah, it's not fully cured because as you can see, it's still white underneath. And that's the stuff that, because it's thicker, it just needs more time to cure. And this stuff can take up to a week to cure, you know, and then continue curing and hardening over a long time, to be perfectly honest. The effects are really good. They're rigid. As you saw, they're easy to do. I mean, how much time you want to put into your models is down to you, you know. But it's an easy material to work with. Now it has pitted a little, yeah, and there are little air bubbles in it. Now those air bubbles weren't in it when we started. What happens is, because as it's curing it gives off fumes, the fumes get trapped within itself. Okay, it comes up with air bubbles, so it makes its own sort of little air bubble. So that's something to be aware of. They're not a problem. There's also little pitting, and basically what happens is very much the same thing, that it's generating fumes that make air bubbles, but these particular little ones, the pitted ones, are where those air bubbles are quite close to the surface and can pop of their own accord. Okay, so don't think like I've added air bubbles in as I put this down. Yeah, this is you should be, you can't put it down perfectly and not get these sort of little bubbles, because they're a result of the chemical reaction, the curing process. Now I've also got these things on the on the plastic cards. Yeah, and as you can see, the transparent gel over here has cured a lot quicker, yeah, than the transparent gel over here. Okay, the extra heavy one. Now the results are pretty much similar. I mean, they've both lost volume, that's no doubt, and all these things do is they reduce, okay, and they cure, they go down. Okay, so if you have to, sculpting something to a specific height, I'd consider using oil paints, because at least when you sculpt with them, what you leave is what you get. Okay, but anyway, yeah, this is how this is going. Now I'm going to leave it another day, so we'll come back to this in another 24 hours so you can see the stage then. Okay, but overall, it's a good effect. Yeah. So next up, we'll see this in 24 hours. Okay guys, it's been 48 hours on the transparent gels, and I'll just bring it up so you can get a nice good close look at that. Let me wiggle it a bit. Okay, and as you can see, the normal gel has set virtually all of it. There's still a little bit of clouding just at the peaks, whereas the heavy gel is still setting where it's quite thick, where it's gone quite thick. And the texture of it and the look of it and the gloss effect is really nice. Okay, now how good your waves are, like I said, it depends on how much time you'll spend on this sort of stuff. Okay, some people can spend, you know, ages crafting waves. Other guys will just whack it down. I sort of sit in the middle. Now, one thing I did notice is that the extra heavy gel, it seems like the ridges are sharper on it. Okay, and I don't know if that's what it's supposed to do. There's no mention of it on the packaging, but that's just one thing I've observed. Now, obviously, you've got the little bubblings, which are the effects of the curing process, but it doesn't really detract from it, to be perfectly honest. Now over here I've got my cards, and I'm going to call quits on this now because I want to get this sort of done and up, so I'm not going to leave it to fully cure. I think you get a pretty good idea of how it's going to fully cure. So that's the transparent gel. You can see just a bit of cloud, and what I'll do is I'll bend this back, and like when we said at the first, this is acrylic, so it will peel off with a bit of work. And it is quite tough. Come on, off you come. Sorry guys, let me just get this off quickly for you. I'll rip what I can just to show you. Now they do say that this stuff is, you put it down and you peel it off. I call shenanigans on that. As you've just seen, this stuff does not peel off easy. Okay, but if you have a look at it, you can see that it's almost perfectly clear. It's still a little bit frosted, okay? You know, you can see that greyness. Yeah, but that will cure over time and that will go to perfectly clear. Okay, and it'll take a week or two. It could take even longer depending on what the environment is like. It looks like I've got something on there. Don't know what it is. Now, if we go over to the extra heavy gel, let's see how this peels off, eh? Actually, it's peeling a little better. Yeah. Now it's... So let me peel that. So, that one's come off a lot better. So the extra heavy gel does peel better. Yeah, what to take from that, quite simply, I'd say, is if you plan on actually putting this stuff down on plastic card and then cutting it out and gluing it down, okay, then go with the extra heavy gel, go with the thicker one, because obviously that just simply isn't strong enough. Okay, now if I bring that up, yeah, you can see where it's clear, you can see where it's cloudy, and where it's clear, I'd say it's about 95% clear. There's still a little bit of frosting, and I don't think you're going to get a glass look from this sort of stuff, to be truthful. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is an acrylic. Okay, I don't think it's going to frost perfectly like glass, no matter how long I leave it. Okay, but that's just my reckonings. Now, obviously, you can see the cloudy bits where they're still set in. Obviously, you can see that this moves. Now, they say this stuff dries to hard in 24 hours. Yeah, and it's a load of rubbish. Yeah, it's surface hard, okay? And I mean, by surface hard, you can gently run your finger over it. But what I'll quickly do, and I'll do it on here, basically, this stuff will never set completely hard. So if any real pressure goes into it, you will be left with that finger mark. Hope that comes up. Yeah. Even after a month, yeah, it will still be pliable. I mean, you've been to houses where they painted they painted the windows, and you go along, and after like 5 years, you can still push into the blobs. It's the same stuff. Okay. One final thing, just quick note on this. Now, when it comes to gluing this stuff down, okay, say you've spread it out, you cut it out, and you want to literally lay it on a river piece. Okay, obviously, I mean, what you go for is PVA, which is great, but what you've got to be really careful of is trapping any PVA underneath. You really do have to work it and squeeze every last little bit out, because if you trap any, yeah, it will go white. Yeah, because this is essentially a thick covering. It will make it airtight. Sorry about the camera wobble, guys. It'll make it airtight, and you know, it won't work. And if I get a chance, I'll show you that. Okay, but basically when you put it down, you really do have to make sure that you squeeze every last little bit of PVA out. So you put it down, okay, and I'll do a proper video on this, but the idea is squeeze it out to the out from the centers, yeah, and really spend some time, because if you leave any, it'll go white, it'll go frosty, and you'll ruin the look. Okay, but anyway, that, guys, is the Hobby Transparent Gels. Okay, normal and extra heavy. They're good. Yeah, they serve an excellent purpose. They're easy to apply. There are better products out there, yeah, but these aren't bad. You know what I mean? Okay, guys, right. We've looked at transparent gels now, and I want to look at a different sort of gel. And this one is one that's got pigment or tint in it. Yeah, and it's coloured. So let's go over and look at that now. Okay, the next product we're looking at is the coloured gels. Okay, and this is from Vallejo, much like the clear gels. And the only difference between this and the clear gels is this has a pigment in it, a translucent pigment. Okay, and so looking at it, applying it, everything is exactly the same as the clear gels, except it looks like that. So let me get my scraper. Now I'm going to put some of this on a white sheet so you can see the translucent and the colour effect of it. Okay, but basically, am I going to be able to get it in? Bend just a little. There you go. Come on. Get this out. Apply it down. Yeah. Apply some over here. And it is literally like a smooth putty as it goes down. Maybe I'll need some more. Just a bit. That's probably too much to be truthful now. But let's whack it down. And then the excess, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on here. Sorry that, you know, you're struggling to see what I'm doing. Yeah, so I'll put that on there. I'll put that on there. You know what? I'm just going to leave it like that so you can see how it dries. Yeah, so put that down there. Just need to clean that off. Now this is water soluble. It's acrylic. It's just like our paints. Okay, so you can wash it. It comes off nice and clean off your tools and everything. You can water it down. Yeah, once again, I'm going to get my spatula. Okay, and I'm just going to spread this stuff out. I'm being really careful with coming up to the edges first. Yeah, and then let's just do this edge. Yeah, and then I'm going to push it down now into this edge. It's a bit more, in fact, I'm going to, yeah, it's messy, this stuff. I'll come this way because I can actually see it better. Yeah, just push that down into there. Okay, and this stuff, to get an effect, you do have to work with it, obviously. You know, it isn't a pour and walk away. Yeah, and I'll show you some techniques for getting rapids and gentle waves and all that in a video coming up, actually, on rivers and that sort of stuff. So in the meantime, all I'm going to do is water soluble. It will peel off, it will wash off if you get it on something else, but you know, the moral of the story with this stuff is go careful. And I'll just do some very gentle waves. Yeah, I'll sharpen up the edges and then blow them over. Yeah. Okay, and quickly on this one, since I'm here, I'll just spread that out a bit. Okay, now there are other stuff along this lines. They do different colours and that sort of stuff. Okay, so you can get different shades, and it is just different pigments in it, to be perfectly honest. Now, what you can also get is this stuff, which is Vallejo White. Okay, and the idea is that once this is dried, you can put this on and sort of dry brush it and put it over to get these sort of white effects. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I've been playing around with this stuff because I've only recently had it, and I'm sure the people at Vallejo will be able to tell me, you know, what's so special about this. But as far as I can tell, yeah, it is white acrylic craft paint. You know, the stuff you can get from a pound from a craft store. It looks exactly the same, it smells exactly the same, it goes down exactly the same, it dries exactly the same. Okay, so I'm sure the wonderful people at Vallejo can tell me, you know, what's different about it. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, from the general application, you know, you should be able to get away with just thick white acrylic paint, guys. Yeah, but we'll look at that once this is dried. Okay, and this is sort of 24-hour cure time. So there are the pieces for the coloured acrylic gels, and there you have. And then we'll move on to as they're drying now. Okay, it's been 24 hours on the coloured gel, this stuff. Okay, and as you can see, yeah, it's almost cured. Okay, now on the plastic card, it's virtually all there, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it's just the little thin bits which need a little bit longer. Okay, and this is hard to touch. You know, I can run my finger over it. It's not going to mess up now after 24 hours. Okay, but if you look carefully, you'll see there's light colours in the waves. Okay, and the reason for that is that's the stuff underneath it still curing. Yeah, whereas the thinner colours have cured and they've got that nice deep blue look. Yeah, like sort of glossy look. Now, a couple of things. Much like the transparent gel, this stuff generates little air bubbles of its own, you know, as it cures. But because it's not translucent, you can't see the majority of them. But you have got little ones where they were close to the surface, little pitting ones. Now, you've got to look really closely for these, but they are there, and they will always be there. It's part of the curing process, so be aware of that, guys. Now, you notice it's splashed up on the sides. Now, I did say at the start, I'm not showing you how to do rivers, I just want to show you the mechanics. Okay, and obviously, as I've gone along, I've smeared it and it's gone on the sides, and this is beveled, so it's especially worse. If you're worried about any of this sort of stuff, remember this stuff is water soluble, which means what you can do is you can get a blob, you can get a wet brush, you can mix it up and make it thinner. You can paint, yeah, a thin, clean river strip with it. Leave it to cure, and then simply put your ripple effects right in between. Yeah, and that's how you avoid slapping on the sides. You know, I was just putting the material down. Yeah, but I'll cover more on that when we actually do rivers. But don't think that, oh, I'm never going to be able to get that in the right place. Yeah, when you work with water effects and rivers and that sort of things, what you often find is, yeah, guys will use a couple of different mediums and a couple of different layers and techniques to get the right effect. Okay, and that's what it's about. This is what this is all about. It's about learning, you know, the mediums and how they work. So anyway, I'm going to leave that another 24 hours. So we'll see it in 24 hours, guys. We're 48 hours in on the coloured gel, and it's very much like the transparent gels. And by that, what I mean is that where it's thin, it's completely virtually cured, and it's got that sort of nice gloss effect to it. Okay, and where it's sort of thicker, it's still got a little lightish tint to it, which means it's still curing. And as I've said before, these things will take a while to cure, but it is surface tough, you know. It's fine to work with and that sort of stuff. The pitting and the bubbles are not so much noticeable on this one because it's not translucent. So all those little bubbles that are made by the curing process are actually hidden. And on the translucence, it's really thick. I am struggling to see any of the colour from underneath. I know it was blue, but even so, you know, this really is quite thick, and especially when it's put on top of blue. So that's a nice deep blue for you. Okay, the ridges are smoothish, so this is more like the normal gel than the extra heavy gel. I imagine if you wanted rigid ridges, you could mix your own pigments such as inks, pigments, paint in with that extra heavy gel and make your own, yeah? And it's not hard, you just mix it in, stir it in, and then apply it. Now, if we flick over to this, yeah, my gut feeling is that looking at the thickness of it, it's going to break up as I peel it. But you can see under the white how it is it's got a translucent effect. Now, these are darker because they're still curing a little. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this off now. So let's give it a go. And yeah, this is way too thin and way too what you call it to come off in a single piece, guys. I imagine if you put it down heavier, it would be fine. But this isn't happening. I'll try and do my best to get a piece off so you can sort of see the translucency without stretching it and deforming it too much. Right. Says it all, doesn't it? Yeah. But I have got that. Yeah. And I'll bring it up to the camera. And you can sort of see the what you call it, the light through it, but no details. Yeah. So, you know, it's not very opaque, but it does let light through when it's really thin. If you're looking to do what you call it, if you're looking to put this down and then cut it out, do a thick coat. Yeah, it's simply because this is so thin that it's breaking before I can peel it. You know, the strength of the material is less than the force required to separate the material from the plastic. Although I'm doing a good job now. Yeah, see, jinxed it. Go on, one last rip, just for the camera before we move on. There you go. Hard, they say. Yeah, on a quick comment on that. Look, this stuff, even though it's quite thin, you can break it. Okay, this is not hard. This is acrylic hard, and there's a difference. Okay, so be aware of this. If you're planning on putting stuff on top of these, perhaps this isn't the best material for you, to be perfectly honest. You want something a lot harder. As long as if you don't need the waves, then go for resin, because it's rock hard. Yeah, if you need the waves, then we'll talk about that. Maybe a gloss coat over it. I'll have to have an experiment. Anyway, guys, that is the coloured gel. Yeah, and it's just the normal gel with a tint in it. Next one I want to look at is one that my mum brought me, okay? And it's an old craft thing, and it's... Let me show you. Let's move on to what you call it, to basically liquid acrylic. Right, guys, the next thing I want to show you is liquid acrylics, okay? Now, all these sort of gels and this sort of stuff are acrylics, okay? And basically they're air drying plastic that carries pigment. Now, if you've heard me say a couple of times that, you know, this is new in the modeling world, yeah, but it's not nothing new out there. These are not brand new discoveries, okay? And let me show you something. This is gallery glass, okay, and these were manufactured in '98, and I remember playing with this stuff as a kid, and I mean literally as a kid. Okay, and the reason being, a little bit of a backstory for you is my dear mum used to own a craft shop. So I spent my formative years surrounded by craft stuff and diorama stuff and gem trees, candles, all sorts of stuff like that. And that's why I'm sort of familiar with these sort of products. And when they bring a new one out, it's like, no, I've seen that a long time ago. Okay, and the reason what this is used for, this gallery glass, is, you know, those stained glass windows that people have hanging up on the windows or do on mirrors. This is it, and basically it's a liquid acrylic that carries a transparent, what you call it, pigment that dries hard. Okay, now it is as simple as popping the lid off. Now I should say these are like coming up to what you call it, coming up to 20 years old, so there might be the odd little imperfection in them. You can buy them new for a couple of quid, okay, but all it is dead simple. Yeah, a liquid acrylic, and it looks like the other stuff. It is the other stuff, it's just thinner. Now I've got a blob in there somewhere, so just excuse me while, like I say, this is an old one, so there's going to be acrylic stuck in it. Come on, out you come. Look at that. Come on. Oh, don't do this to me now, guys. You won't have this problem if it's a new bottle. Yeah, this is almost 20 years old. So what I'm having to do is the acrylic has hardened on the inside, and I'm just pulling it out quickly. Come on, out you come. Happens with there you are. And it happens with PVA occasionally. You know, where you get the skin of the bottle. So let me quickly go back. I'll just wash my fingers. And like I say, this stuff is water soluble, so you know, you get it on your fingers. All you got to do is drop them in water and give them a quick wash off. Oh, right. So back to putting this stuff on. Yeah, and just squeeze it in like that. Oh, don't tell me not again. Ah, there we go. There may be a hard bit in here because I think that just shot out. Let me just grab that bit. This is the skin off the bottle, guys. Yeah. Like I say, it's an old bottle. How much is in there? Yeah. Now, because it's liquid, we can roll it about. So rather than trying to get it up to the edges, all I'm doing is just putting a decent amount in the center. Okay, just let me clean my fingers, guys, before I pick this up. Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, and then slop. Yeah. Now, it's got a medium viscosity, which means it's not as thin as water. Okay, but it's not as thick as gel. So you won't be able to sculpt things in, and it won't go perfectly flat, but it is a damn good effect. Yeah, and all I'm doing here is I'm rolling it about. So I'll turn that around so you can see. So all I'm doing is I'm rolling it about. I'm basically trying to get it in the corners, trying to get it along the edges. Come on, just that one edge. Almost done. I just don't want to sort of have it too far up the banks. There you go. Quickly do that corner. There you go. And I think you can see just there the hard bit that shot out. Okay. Now, once again, this stuff, if it gets air bubbles in, it does take a while to set. So you can just simply come along and go pop in the air bubbles, which is quite fun and at the same time quite challenging with some of this stuff. Come on, die. I'm not going to do them all because I'll be here forever. Well, I won't be here forever, but I'll get the majority of them. And just, I've got to get that one because it's bugging me. Right, and so it goes down like that. And as you notice, it's just the same sort of look to it as the acrylic gels because it's the same stuff, it's just more watery. Now I'll put some on here on white so you can see how it goes. And what I also want to do is just let you know that this comes in every shade under the sun. Okay, and there's some wonderful colours out there. Yeah, let me show you this one. This is Caledon Green. Okay, and I'm just going to put this out. Once again, this is 20 years old, so forgive it if it goes a bit funky. There you are, there's my acrylic strip. Yeah. So put that on there. What I'm going to do is quickly just roll this around. As you notice, that's a bit thicker. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll just let that dry so you can see the effect of that drying. Bring it up so you can see the sort of colour of it. Yeah, so that's them on there, and what we'll do is we'll come back to these as they dry. So, liquid acrylics, been around for donkey's years. I was playing with them when I was 6 or 7, I think. Okay, making little stained glass stuff. Okay, and like I say, I keep saying this, don't assume that just because it's the Wargames manufacturer supplying this stuff that it's new. Don't think that, you know, that's the only place you can get it. Have a look around because there are cheaper and in a lot of cases better alternatives in the craft stores. So there you go, liquid acrylic. Quickly, before it runs. Yeah, there you go. I'm just going to, moving on for when it dries. 24 hours in on my mum's special stuff. Okay, the liquid acrylic, and basically all this is, it's water. It's the same stuff as this. Yeah, it's just watered down a bit more. Yeah, so it flows, and we've got exactly the same sort of air bubble effect. Now, because this is thinner, and I think because, to be truthful, it's about 15 years old, it's a bit more excessive than it usually is. Okay, but it is there. Remember, that's part of the process. Now, if you notice, yeah, do you see these lips? Now, these did have sides on, these sides, last night. When the kids left to go to school this morning, these sides weren't on, so I'm not sure which one did it, but one of them did it and took them off early. But anyway, as you can see, yeah, this stuff retracts. Do you see that lip? Yeah, this little flap. Yeah, what's happened is it's filled up, and as it's sort of cured and it's dried, it's sunk down, and it happens with all the acrylics. Yeah, it's not just this stuff my mum's given me. Okay, so you need to be aware of that. Yeah, as you can also see, yeah, do you see how it's slightly lighter over here? Okay, that's because this side is still curing. When I left it, it was on a slight slope, and very over time it moved along that way. So just be aware, guys, yeah, with all the water effect stuff, when you're leaving it to dry, make sure they are actually horizontal. Okay, now if you don't want this sort of effect, but you want to use this stuff on your rivers and that sort of stuff, it's quite easy. Yeah, just put it on nice thin layers and just paint it on with a brush. Don't pour it in and fill it and let it cure. Paint it on and go for the thin layers, very much like painting, you know. If you want the great effects, you want the control, then you put it on nice thin layers of paint. You don't blob it on. Okay, now I should say that, do you see that little bit, that sort of ripple? Yeah, it looks like it's got a split in it. Yeah. Now what that is do you remember when we poured it out and that little bit of latex, or that little bit of acrylic, dried acrylic shot out, and I said, yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah, what's happened is, as it's dried, it's folded over it, and the tension, yeah, as it's folded, has slowly made it split at the top. And the thing to take from that is, what you call it, is that this stuff really doesn't like uneven surfaces. It's got to be a smooth surface. Yeah, if you start putting stuff under it, you'll start getting that breaking effect. And if you want to use uneven surfaces, then you need to be looking at the still water effects. Basically, the stuff that's got a much lower viscosity and flows better. Okay, now quickly looking at the stuff on the plastic card. Yeah, as you can see, it's a nice blue. There's less sort of air bubbles and pitting in that, but there are some. Now what I did want to show you, which is the green, and it looks like it's in much better condition. Yeah, look at that for slime. Slime out of the bottle, perfect colour. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to show you these things. Now my mum's got a whole stack of these and she's going to drop them off for me, so I'm delighted about that. Yeah, I love, you know, extra materials, and, you know, God knows how old they're going to be, but, you know, she saves everything. But she's got some damn good stuff. Yeah, when she finds it. But anyway, look at the sludge on that. Now, you will be seeing that in a sort of sludge coming out of a pipe into a pool tutorial coming really soon, yeah, because I'm going to be using that because it's bloody brilliant. Pardon my French. Okay, now I want to leave this just another 24 hours just so it can sort of fully cure, and I reckon it should be fully cured by then, and then we'll have another chat then. See you in 24 hours. Right, 48 hours in on the liquid acrylic, and it is, I'd probably say it's about 90% there. There's a little cloud still curing there. Okay, but the effect is really nice, as you can agree. There is some pitting from the bubbles, you know, this stuff is old, so I was expecting it, and we've got a little crack there from where it was resting on top. Okay, now if you also notice, yeah, I've got a flap this side now, and I haven't got a flap here, and what I did is I simply got a sharp, yeah, and I'll quickly show you because it's easier. All I did is in successive layers cut down. Yeah, and all I did is I slowly reduced that edge, okay, these edges, and I made it flat. And to be truthful, it's about a millimetre, perhaps 2 millimetres at the thickest where I've cut through, and it's gone sort of matte. But these are going to be the end bits. To be perfectly honest, if you were putting this on a river, 99% of hobbyists wouldn't mind. The 1% of perfectionists like me would drive us crazy. Yeah, but overall, from my mum, liquid acrylic, that Gallery glass, really good, especially for how cheap it is. Yeah, and the fact that you can get it in all colours. And on colours, let's go over to my swatch, my little test piece. Now, it's liquid acrylic, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this off for you so you can see the effect. And because of the way it goes on and the fact that it hasn't been smoothed down, this isn't like the gels. It's a lot thicker, and it does peel off nicely, which means that you can spread it out and you can cut it out and then peel it off and glue it down. Because this is coloured, it's not so much of an issue with putting PVA under it either. Yeah, because the frosting, if you leave any bits, it's not so much of a problem. Now, if you have a look in, that's the wife just coming into the room very quietly. Yeah, if you have a look at it, yeah, it's quite flexible. It's got a little bit of transparency to it. Yeah, you can just about see my finger in there. Yeah, but once it goes onto a dark background, yeah, you're not going to see anything under there, to be perfectly honest. So if you do like light streaks on it, they will sort of subtly show through. Okay, now the other thing is, like the others, this is not fully set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze it, yeah, and there you go. There's my fingerprint in it, yeah, and you can actually see the ridges of my fingerprint. Okay, and that's turned that matte. Yeah, so I've deformed that now with pressure, so be aware, these sort of things, acrylics, you know, they're not hard. I know it says it dries to hard, but they don't. Now, one final thing with the acrylics, okay? Look at that for sludge. Now, remember, these gallery glass, these stained glass stuff, yeah, you can get it in every colour you can imagine. And you can order it in specific Pantones. And a Pantone is a unique reference to a colour, yeah, in the world, okay? It's a very complicated system, yeah? But what it does is it lets you specify a set colour, and it's a universal standard, so it doesn't matter who you send that colour to, yeah, which printer or whatever, they will always get that colour. And you can get these made up to those colours, so you literally can get any shade you want. So you want to do sludge effects or anything like that, this stuff is brilliant, really brilliant. Now what I'll do is I'm going to quickly peel this one off as well. See, I'm just getting my nail under it. I'm trying not to deform it as I do it. It's not easy because this is stuck down quite well. If anyone's got a better idea of what to stick these down to that they come off better, give us a shout, yeah? I mean, I've always used plasticard, but I'm just wondering now whether glass or something like that would adhere better, would adhere less, to be truthful, so I don't have this force issue. Yeah, now as you can see, I've ripped that off. Okay, and there it is. Now, finger behind it, there is a subtle shadow, but there's very little translucency in that. That's really dense. You know, there's a lot of pigment in that. Yeah, but it is beautiful sludge. I mean, come on, Nurgle guys. You want to drape it all over your tanks, don't you? And down your models. I know you do, because I do. And I don't even play Nurgle. So anyway, guys, that is the liquid acrylic. Now remember, these little bits at the side, that's because we poured it in, we spread it around a bit and it reduced down, yeah? If you don't want those, paint it on. Okay, just put a little bit of water with it. They're all water soluble, just paint it on. So that's liquid acrylic, guys. Right, that's the last of them. So I think the best thing to do now is sort of do a roundup. Let's go cameras up. Hi guys, right, we have covered gloss, water effects, transparent gels, coloured gels, liquid acrylics, and these are all hobby things, guys, okay? Now, there's all sorts of materials out there. There's stuff you can get from craft shops, from art shops, there's building supplies, various silicons and that sort of stuff. And I will give you an overview of those and sort of play with those as and when the budget can afford it, guys. It's as simple as that. Okay, I can't afford to go out and buy, you know, a £10 thing just to go, look, this is it. Yeah, that's life. Now, obviously these are hobby ones. We've talked about that we're going to cover other materials. I know there's been mistakes with them. This is showing you the materials. Yeah, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be going on to some tutorials. I've already prepped them. I'm already in the middle of filming them. Yeah, and that's where we'll cover how to apply these properly and the little tricks and techniques. Okay, yeah, what I wanted to do with this one is give you a broad overview, and hopefully it's done that. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll gladly answer them. If you've got any tips to share, drop them in the comments. And guys, if you're watching this and you've got this far, go read the comments. There's always good information in them. Yeah, I pull a lot out of my comments and I'm sure you will too. In the meantime, yeah, if you like what you got the video and you appreciate what I've done, hit the like button, let me know. If you want to show it your friends, share it around obviously, and if you like terrain stuff, subscribe to the channel guys. There'll be a link coming up here. Okay, in the meantime, yeah, keep your eyes out for how to do ponds, which is the next water effect tutorial coming up. And finally, have a good day guys. All the best. Ta-ra.